All right, all right, all right. All right. So, welcome to another episode of the Four Elements. I'm your boy Earth.
And I'm Water.
When
I'm fire.
All right, so tonight we have a very exciting, possibly, if not exciting, it's going to be very interesting show tonight. And tonight we're going to talk about, are you a prisoner of your circumstance or circumstances? Because we could be in many circumstances. So, you know how I like to do when I kick it off. You know, Water is your favorite part. It's definition time.
Hey, just kill
Oh,
us. You and Fire both. Although Fire is more the captain of notes, king of notes. You're the king of definitions, but Fire is definitely the look, he's got his pen. He's got his nice. Let's do
yeah.
it.
So I want to set the context so we're clear about what we're talking about, because too often we use words and we use them out of context. I hear it all the time. So let's kick it off. So first, I want to define very briefly what is a prisoner and what is a circumstance. So in this context, what we mean by prisoner is a person who is or feels confined or trapped by a situation or set of circumstances. Y'all got that? That's easy, right? Maybe,
Yeah.
possibly. Okay, okay. Now, circumstance is a fact or condition connected with or relevant to an event or action. Say it again. A fact or condition connected with or relevant to an event or action. Second definition that is relevant to what we're talking about is one state of financial or material welfare. So let's kick it off. Are you a prisoner of your circumstance? Well, I would argue, that most of us are, if I don't like to use all, probably 90 something percent of us are prisoners of our circumstance. You alter that circumstance, and many people will actually crumble. Meaning, if you are making a certain income, see, you're making a certain income, say you're making, I don't know, 500K a year. Are you a prisoner of that 500K? If that 500K went away, how would you respond to that? What would you do? If it was altered in any way, how would you be able to survive it? Because you would think that, okay, with that circumstance, that's a great circumstance to have. Like, we would think that. I mean, most of us would. However, it depends upon how you have trapped yourself or become a prisoner of that thing based upon your lifestyle. That is one of the things that will determine whether or not you're a prisoner of that one. And how much are you attached, for example, to that circumstance, or with this example, the 500K? How much have you attached yourself to that? Is that your lifeline? And if it was taken away, there would be nothing. That is why you will have at times when the stock market crashes, what happens? Someone 86s themselves because they are attached to something. The circumstance was altered in an unfavorable way, and being a prisoner of that, there's no way out. You can't see the light of day because you're a prisoner. So let me stick a pin right there. Let me pause right there real quick, and let me hear from the elements. Are you a prisoner of your circumstance or circumstances? And if you want to comment on anything I've said, do that.
Go ahead, Water. Set it off, baby.
Yeah.
See?
Okay. Okay. Good. Yeah, I would say yes. I am. Look, I live in America, so if you drop me in a country where I don't know, I didn't have my freedoms, I would. I'm not going to 86 myself, but I'd be suffering big time. The income thing is big for me. Like, if again, I'm just gonna say that I think when people off themselves or jump, I think that's an extreme case. So that doesn't apply to me because we've talked about this before. Hey, listen, man, aliens can land and be sucking people's brains out of their skulls. I'm not doing it. I feel like I could still get away all the way until I'm like, wait, like in the air flailing. So those don't apply to me. However, yes, I would be suffering. And I mean, people don't even think about it. Like, dude, bro, imagine losing one of your limbs, right?
Right.
Or just being, paralyzed or something like that. Dude, there's a lot of suffering that goes along with that. So I think that when, like health, wealth, or financial well-being, I think, yes, I am a prisoner, and I can't sit here and say, oh, yeah, okay, well, I mean, yeah, I just lost an arm. I'm good. Like there would be a lot of suffering around that. There would be a lot of, I'd say probably for me, depression would probably be the state that I would find myself in. So fire, I stole your thunder because I knew you were going to come and be a little vulnerable, whatever. But I wanted to give the elemental something different and have somebody else to be the first to get naked.
Great minds think alike, man. I was like, nah, sit back. Let's see if somebody else will go there, and you did.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, bro. I answer it two ways. Because when you position the question, or I think about, obviously, I think about my personal view, my personal experience, like my personal attachments, and the answer is yes. Do I suffer as a prisoner of my circumstances? In reality, yes. However, are we prisoners of our circumstances? The answer to that is no. We aren't inherently prisoners of our circumstances. The thing that determines whether we are or are not is the attachment. And Earth had used that word a moment ago. It's the attachment. It's the point of view. It's your concept. It's your philosophy. It's your principles. So I think about our ancestors who were involuntarily enslaved, and I think about the mindset of, if freedom is death and I don't want to die, then I have to find a way to fix my mindset to be able to endure the circumstances that I can't control. Because if me controlling it is trying to escape and dying or killing myself or killing them and then being killed, I'm going to make, so then you get the Negro spirituals. You get a mindset or a disposition that allows you to endure, sustain, survive in an unwanted. You're a prisoner. In fact, you are in fact a prisoner. However, whistling on the job, the Negro spirituals, et cetera, and so forth, we're all well aware of what they are people. That is an example of someone creating a mental state to be able to survive the circumstances. And so therefore, from that perspective, none of us are prisoners of our circumstances. We either allow ourselves to be or we choose to be. And I'll put a pin in it right there. That's my thought.
Well, there you go. So water made it personal, fire made it ethereal. We're running the opposites today, man.
I disagree with you, Fire, to a particular extent. When he defined prisoner, he said that we were confined. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a permanent confinement. But we are, in fact, prisoners of our circumstance because we have a particular worldview, a particular context in which we see things and operate. And unless we have an external catalyst or somebody to assist us in determining or distinguishing a blind spot to get us out of that context, then we'll always be confined to that certain space.
Nice.
Now, when you said alteration, Earth, you only gave one context. You gave a negative context, as if the only thing that could happen was that you would lose money. But what if you gain money?
Well, I specifically said if it could go in a positive, but I was talking about if it goes down. Now I'm going to get to the other end of it also.
Yeah.
But
let me just give you an example, a real life example. You know, there was a time where, you know, I didn't have an education about something. And so my compensation was in alignment with that current thinking. And it wasn't until I was able to, I was exposed to something else that I was able to get to a different income bracket. So again, you know, we are definitely prisoners to our particular circumstance unless there's a external catalyst to shift us. I'll pause right there.
So, really good. Really, I like what everybody said, basically. Now, I'll say this. One of the reasons I brought this topic up is because you take Nelson Mandela, for example. He was in prison, but for himself, he was never a prisoner. So you can be imprisoned and not a prisoner. That's why I use the word, are you a prisoner of your circumstance? Because you're just because you're in prison doesn't mean you're a prisoner. And he was able to function on a very high level within the prison itself. He got privileges that no one else could get, you know, in my opinion, for the point of view that he had of his circumstances. So from that perspective, we're only prisoners when we say that the prison has made us that. When we say that, of course, because we can't see any other way of being. We can't see any other way out. You can't see anything else to do except to be a prisoner. So that's one of the reasons I want to talk about this particular topic, just to kind of get us to really think about like the distinction between being in prison and being a prisoner. Right. And so I argue that we're not prisoners of our circumstance, unless not unless we say so, but unless you don't see any alternative. You can say whatever you want to say. If there's no alternative that you can see, yeah, you would be a prisoner at that point.
And I would add that you don't need a third party to have that perspective.
Correct. Absolutely.
That's something that really comes from within and is a personal choice, because we can point to Nelson Mandela. That's a fantastic example of what I was trying to articulate using this our ancestors. It's the same thing.
Right.
But I got people on the Bing right now that definitely feel like prisoners. What's the difference between them and Nelson?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know people who went to prison, got GEDs and degrees.
Mm-hmm.
They in the same circumstances of the dude who says I'm locked up, I can't get nothing done in here, man. Could you send me a couple dollars on my books? What are you doing? Why is he getting multiple degrees and starting programs and you sitting there conducting yourself from the ideology, from the existential place that you are in fact a prisoner because you are in prison, right? And so that's why I say there's a distinction between the isness of being a prisoner versus being in prison or being in an imprisoned position. There is a distinction, and so to make it personal, to go back to what Water led with, I certainly am somebody who feels, because the operative word to me in the definition of being a prisoner is the feeling. It's a person who feels confined or trapped by a situation or a set of circumstances. It's the feeling. And so if you could be in some very harsh conditions and be like, this is what it is, dog. Like, this is what it is. Or you could be like, man, it's hot out here. Like, I don't like this job. I don't like these people. I don't like, so it all depends on the disposition or POV of the person. I just want to make that distinction that we have power. Even if you are in fact in prison, an animal or a human being born in captivity. If you don't know that you're in captivity and you don't have the view of yourself as a prisoner, how could you be how could you be in prison? You don't feel it. It's not your experience.
Right.
So this is a really good conversation. I'm curious to see where you're going to take it, brother.
But hold on. I want to hit back Fire with his own medicine. Okay. So Fire. Okay. I mean, we all live good. All four of us. We live good. You live really good.
Mm-hmm.
So tomorrow, you wake up tomorrow morning and you pushing the shopping cart. Straight up. Like, when we get into this whole, like you create your reality and all this stuff, like, are you going, because you just made a reference to someone who's in prison and, they have this power. However, we're pretty much armchair quarterbacks, right? We're up in the stands right now. And so someone who's in the field. So tomorrow you straight up pushing the shopping cart, right? You're out at the street light. Just like, yo, got nothing. How would you apply what you just said to that? Or better yet, would you, from a personal perspective, would you be able to apply that? Or would you just be like, man, yesterday I was being, today I am being, oh my God, this is a lot to handle right now.
Yeah. So I would honestly feel all the feels of what it feels like to be a prisoner of your circumstance. Certainly. I've had ups, I've had downs, and I'm not talking about, I've been up, but when I say I've been down, not like under the bridge down, but down for somebody who has a wife and children, and like literally have nothing, don't know how I'm going to provide dinner tonight. You understand what I'm saying? Not just how I'm going to eat, but how I'm going to provide, because they got to eat first. I'm not the dude that had the big piece of chicken before everybody else eats, even sits down. I'm the dude, everybody eats first and I eat. That's just how I am. And my wife is going to serve the kids first. That's how she is. She's aligned. She's like, dude, I got to feed these kids first. Long story short is this. I would feel everything, all the humanistic ways that you would think a person would feel. However, I could just point to all the times that I've been down in that situation where there was so much scarcity and uncertainty. And after I dealt with my mindset, I immediately went into a problem solving or a reconciliation mode because they have to eat, right? So if I'm pushing the shopping cart, half a meal out the door, I got nothing. After I cry, after I pray, after I meditate, now we got to get into solution mode because this is not a state of permanence, as Wynn always alludes to. I understand that being down or having your circumstances change to a less than ideal state is not a permanent state, just as being up was not a permanent state. So that, honestly, honest to God, every time I've been down and down bad, with responsibilities, yes, I've cried. Yes, I've sulked. I've flirted and dabbled with what I would say feels like a depression. But that only lasts a couple days, like literally, because I have to get into action. Like these jokers don't care. They don't. They, oh, you got cut. Oh, you got fired. Oh, you made a bad investment. Oh, we got to move because the landlord, got a tenant who's going to pick, like, whatever it is. I deal with it, bro. And I think, if I'm being honest, I think that most people, most humans would find a way to be resilient. The majority of people will find a way to climb up out of that trough.
There's a good book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It was by a Jewish gentleman who was caught up in the concentration camps during World War II. But his book is in alignment with what you were speaking of with respect to Mandela, where he was in a horrible situation, but he reshaped or reshifted his mindset to survive and thrive subsequent to that experience. I highly recommend that book.
Nice.
Say it again, Win.
Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. But what I was alluding to earlier, there's also another book. It's called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And so what I'm saying is that what I was suggesting is that a lot of times we get into particular spaces and we get confined, like we hit the ceiling, a glass ceiling. And for us to shift and get beyond that ceiling, we have to come with a different frame of thought. And oftentimes that comes through learning or, identifying a blind spot and dealing with it powerfully. So there's another book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And the author's name is Marshall Goldsmith. I highly recommend that as well. And I'll pause right there.
Cool. So, good commentary, guys. Good comment. I see y'all working over there. Now, give me this example. And this is when I really began to come to the realization that many people are prisoners of their circumstance. I'll give you an example. So, during 9/11, right? This is back when I initially got married. I was on my honeymoon, on the first phase of the honeymoon in New York. So on on the 11th, that morning, I think it was Tuesday morning, I don't remember, but nevertheless, got up, the planes hit the towers. And so we probably watched it for maybe an hour, and we looked at each other. I was like, we need to go. The circumstance literally shifted because we had all these plans for the day, and then we were going to fly out later that day. Circumstances like shifted on a dime. Looked at my ex-wife. I was like, oh, we need to go. And we immediately got into action around leaving. We went down once we, began to put a plan together. We went down to get something to eat, and people were literally walking the streets aimlessly, like zombies. That's how it occurred. Like they had no clue what to do at all. And I looked around, I was like, wow, why isn't anyone like really taking actions around I need to go? I'm not gonna say anyone because there were people, just like me and my ex-wife. So the next day, we went down to the train station to catch a train out to the closest we could get to Atlanta was Virginia. And my cousin-in-law picked us up from Virginia. Went down to the train station, pretty much the same thing. People were just walking around like they had no clue what to do. When we walked down to board the train, you would think there would be a line of people boarding the train. There wasn't. Everybody was up top, walking around. Something drew them to the train station. However, it was like people just did not know what to do next. And so for us, we couldn't get to Atlanta. We just worked backwards. Of course, Atlanta, couldn't get there. And we just kept looking at the train routes that we could catch to actually at least get out of the city. Once we got out of the city, we're like, okay, we're good. And so finally we got out of the city. And as many of you know, when they shut down, all the bridges and all the other transportation, airlines and everything else, people were stuck there for a week. Because I argue, like I wasn't there, I didn't talk to anyone, but just from my perspective and what I saw, it was like people did not know what to do because their comfortable circumstance was actually drastically and immediately altered. And many times we say what we'll do, and like, Warder said, yeah, we're playing armchair quarterback. We say what we'll do, but when the rubber meets the road, what will we actually do? And what you will actually do is how you respond to circumstances today will be the same way you will respond to them tomorrow if something happened. It's not going to be anything different because how you respond today is automatic. It just happens. You don't think about it. It just boom, it happens, and that's how you respond. Now, once you make that response and you see, whoa, wait a minute, it's not working, can you pivot? Absolutely. But I argue that your initial response to a circumstance will be what it always is when something happens that alters your state. What y'all got about that?
That's exactly where I was going with my questions, because I think that it's so easy for us to, I know I do it, but it's easy for us to just say, hey, yeah, man, look, I would easily just adjust and adapt, man, but that's not how things operate. I think we were on one of our calls and we were talking, one of our personal calls that the four of us have, and we were talking about something was happening, and it was just like, hey, when you do this, when you do this with us, you're doing this with everyone, right? Or when you do this in one area of life, you're doing this across the boards. This isn't like a, hey, oh yeah, you're just doing this today. This is just this is your default way of being. So I think that what I said in the initial, when you first asked the question, and then what I was, I guess, kind of fired a loaded question, is that my thought process is that our default way of being is prisoner. I can't think of anyone who's just like, oh yeah, man, okay, yeah, planes are crashing into a building right there. Yeah, all right, well, you know what? Let's get real clear about our plan to leave. It's not gonna be like that. It just doesn't happen like that. And I think that just comes from, now, not to say that there aren't people like that, because I would assume that people in the military have trained, there's people who've trained, and SWAT members and stuff like that. These people have trained in all different kind of crises and things like that. But the average everyday person just, I mean, I'm with you, Earth. Like, maybe at some point you kind of snap out of it, but man, I mean, you go from, gosh, I was flying on private jets to, man, I'm straight up having to ask someone for some money so I can, or better yet, asking someone for their, can they call a friend for me to come pick me because I don't have a phone anymore. Just some people just fall apart in those situations. And I'm with you, Earth. I think given a timeline, 80, 90, whatever, 90% people would snap out of it. But what is that timeline is the real question. What is that timeline? That timeline could be, a couple of seconds, which I doubt it happens, more or less like a couple of weeks, depending on how severe it is, right? Something light, maybe a couple of seconds. Something big, who knows how long it takes people. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. So, so the other point I was going to bring up is like, what has you to respond? How you respond to a shift in circumstance.
So that's a great follow-up question because my piggyback to water actually answers that for me. Right. As I'm looking as water it was speaking, I'm looking at and I'm pontificating on your assertion, Earth, that how we respond yesterday is how we respond today is how we respond forevermore. And I'm trying it on to see if it has panned out as true for me. And the answer is it depends. So that time horizon that water is talking about, once you have an awareness like, oh snap, something shifted immediately, and you deal with the impact of that. For me, if it's me, the time it takes for me to shift and reconcile or plan, regroup, if you will, is long. It's longer. It's probably more like weeks. If it impacts me. When it impacts me and impacts my kids, or it impacts my kids, it is a much truncated time horizon to shift and transform my mindset so that I can transform my situation. And maybe it's just because it's others at stake, but being a father, being a husband, being a big brother, being the eldest, being responsible for my little brother since 5, 6, 7, that conditioning is there. And so the distinction for me is not necessarily the circumstances itself that change. It's whether it just impacts me. I'm probably going to flight. If it just impacts me, I'm gonna flight. My response is go numb, go to like I don't care, go null, and keep it pushing. If it impacts my family or my kids, my response is to fight. It's different. So that's what I observe in myself. Win?
I like that. Hold on, before we get win, hold that thought, man. Whatever you got. Fire. We got another dude, man. What's up with the fellas? The fellas have been joining us in the comments, man. Something's happening. Something's changing around here.
That's my
man.
brother Isern, the Ross.
Something is changing. Fire, you wanna pop this question? We'll come back to win after this question right here.
Yep. Brother Isern. So he says, coming from Facebook, thanks, bro, for joining us. Does awareness make a difference in terms of changing those response patterns? My response to that is an emphatic yes. And awareness is like the genesis of transformation from my perspective. What you guys got?
Yeah, for me, awareness gives you an opportunity to override that response, because the response is going to be there. It's just how quickly do you override the response? And I truly believe that awareness has a lot to do with it. And I want to also add onto what you were saying, Fire, that it can be circumstantial. Because when we were in New York, right, and everything went down, when I thought about and what had me to respond in that way, because I responded like quickly, I was like, we need to go. When I thought about it, it had everything to do with my conditioning, my upbringing. So growing up, you go to a party, it's probably going to happen. Somebody's probably going to start shooting at some point. That's a state of emergency. That means you need to get out of here. And so the response for me in those circumstances was to go. not necessarily go with the crowd, wherever this thing was happening, get away from that one. And so the thing that enabled me to respond in that way was that was a state of emergency. It occurred as life or death. And so the response is, let's go. So that enabled me to do that. Now, there could be some other circumstance that comes up, and I'll sit back and be like, let's see what's going on with this. Or I might not even be aware. I don't know. I haven't been in every single circumstance. I might have zero awareness. None. So to Patrick's point, yes, your awareness makes a difference. Definitely does. But there are degrees of awareness that exist also. It's just not always just totally, being aware. Like in that circumstance, I was totally aware. I was like, I'm out. And that was that. So yeah, what y'all got?
Yeah, I was actually just about to talk about what you just talked about. So just like there's various degrees of consciousness or awareness, there are various degrees of circumstance. And just like you talked about, on one extreme, there's the very traumatic circumstance, a state, something that generates a state of emergency. Then on the opposite side of that spectrum, like you said, there's a subtle circumstance that you may not be aware of, you may not be privy to, and then everything else in between. Most of us deal with, on a day-to-day basis, somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. And because it's not an emergency and require an immediate response, we actually find ourselves stuck, totally unaware. And we're just going through the motions, not knowing how to, penetrate a different level. So again, in that sense, we are prisoners, to certain circumstances. And I'll just pause right there. I'll let you guys get in there.
Yeah, well put, Win. I think, to finish off going around the horn on Patrick's question, yeah, awareness is huge. I'm a big proponent of, hey, some awareness at some point throughout the day can go a long way. So because there's all kind of circumstances, like Win was saying, that middle stuff that is just happening, and we're not even aware that those things are kind of running the show. So I think that, yes, Patrick, awareness makes a huge difference, because if you can, to me, once you actually put a little bit of awareness in there, you become present. Like, to me, that's a different way of saying it. And then when you're present, that just breaks you basically, at least for an instant, you can break the pattern for an instant. Now, when Earth is talking about that emergency situation, man, I don't know. To me, that takes training, because right now, even all four of us are sitting here. Like, if somebody just came in the house and gunshots start popping off, like, we're not going to sit here and be cool. Like, hey guys, we need to wrap the show up because there's gunshots going. Like, no, you're going to, it's like, there's a situation to happen right now. So I think, the more acute the situation is, then probably the less awareness you can bring to that situation. That's what I have on that.
Yeah, it's just a knee-jerk response, and you never know how you'll respond. Everybody responds differently.
Back to Earth's point, but back to Earth's point, they're being driven in those situations instead of people choosing those situations. I think that's what you were saying, right, Earth, when you were going into that. At least that was my interpretation.
Yeah.
Therese has a question, Walter. I want to get to that, and I want to put tie a bow around the awareness piece, because I'm feeling responsible. I don't want to leave people with a belief or a disposition that awareness alone is sufficient for transformation. Um, so, and I'm gonna get to Therese in a second, but I want to share this. If you can see this, probably not. It's funny that Brother Isern asked the question that you can see the acronym AdCar, and I gave this on the show earlier show, but I'm gonna give it again tonight, real quick. So this is a change or a transformation methodology used in corporate America, and is probably one of the most powerful acronyms that I've ever come across in 15 years in the corporate domain. We got tons of acronyms, but not all of them hit the same. Right? There's a whole dictionary of acronyms, but this one says AdCar. The A is for awareness of the need for change. That is the genesis of transformation. I'm aware that I have a need to change. Now, that all by itself is not going to stop me from smoking. It's not going to stop me from eating ho-hos and Twinkies at 1 a.m. It's not going to stop me from cheating. It's not going to stop me from anything, right? Being late, whatever, procrastinating. The D, and these things have to happen in succession, by the way. The D is for desire to participate and support the change. The desire to participate in and support the change within yourself. So I know we have a problem. But I ain't gonna do nothing about it. Ain't gonna get it done. I know we have a problem, and I have a desire to change it. The third part is knowledge. The K is knowledge. Knowledge on how to change. Most people have awareness. Now I want to do it. Where do I even start? That's the knowledge part. The fourth piece is A, the ability to implement required skills or behavior. So I know what I should be doing. I know how, and I have the ability to take those changes. And the last piece is the reinforcement, what we call the structure, to sustain the change, to make sure you don't default back to your old ways, as Earth pointed to earlier when he talked about how we respond yesterday is how we respond today and forevermore, because there's no reinforcement. That process hasn't taken place. So you do the same thing over and over again by default. So Therese is now
this guy. Hold on, but let me just say that this guy's a certified AdCar
I am. I'm a certified practitioner, bro.
This guy's a double black belt in AdCar, in AdCar. So we got it. I mean, this guy, I'm surprised you even had to read that. Fire, you slipping, man. You had to read it off the box. You're supposed to be able to do that blindfold, in order to get your initiation through. You got to do that blindfold, don't you?
It wasn't about me. It's about the elementals.
Got it. All right. You didn't want to show off. You want to look human. I got it.
I got it, but I want you guys to get it.
All right, cool.
Therese. Sister Queen Therese, how does one's level of resilience impact their response to circumstances?
Therese, before you go, I have to say that resilience was not on the AdCar model, so I don't know.
Bro, that was my default thought. That was my default thought. Like, that's not a part of the model. We covered in the gray now. We off the reservation.
Oh man. Go ahead, Earth. I interrupted you, bro. Go ahead.
No, you all go ahead. I want to look up something first. I want to make sure we get the context of this. Go ahead.
Go grab resilience. For
yes.
us,
oh my God. Here he comes. He's coming with the definition of resilience.
We gotta level set it.
He's got impact, response, and resilience. Just bring the definition of level as well while you're at it, man. So what do you guys have on this while he's looking that up?
Yeah, resilience does matter. I mean, how you approach circumstances. The question is, how do you generate resilience? How does resilience occur? That's experience. That's training and development. I mean, it could be a lot of things that allows one to get to that resilience place. But like I said, in a traumatic, in an emergency, you only have split seconds to react. And just like a baby, if a mother's baby is trapped under a car, that mother is going to move that car.
And before Earth goes and gets into the Oxford or whatever source dictionary definition that he's using, I want to share my occurrence of resilience. Of course, I know what resilience means. Does I know what it says in Oxford word for word? No. But I was a teenager when my mentor talked to me and he exposed me to the whole domain of resilience. And the analogy he used that stays with me to this day at 40 is, think of it as a blade of grass. He said, if you ever step on a blade of grass and then you lift your foot off, no matter how long you stand there, now, depending upon your weight and how long you stand there, will determine how long it takes for that blade of grass to return to its initial state. However, the point being is that blade of grass, after you step on it, will keep coming up. It's like getting knocked back down and getting back up. So from my perspective, Sister Therese, if you are someone who lacks resilience, you don't have that many times to get knocked down in you. And so yes, it is a factor. If you identify someone who's resilient, I don't care, no matter what happens in life, no matter what life throws my way, no matter what the circumstances are, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit on myself. I'm not going to quit on my dreams. I'm not going to quit on my ideals. I'm not going to quit on my passion and what I feel, my purpose. Then you'll keep getting back up. But if you're not resilient, that's going to Wynn's point. How do you develop resilience? To answer that and then give it over to Earth, to me, you have to first know that you're not a resilient person. You have to have the distinction resilience, because if you don't know, you're not going to do this work. Once you know, you can only go through hardship to develop resilience. But you got to apply this model. If you apply this model, it'll solve all your problems. If you got a toothache, apply AdCar. It'll solve all your AdCar.
I'm done with the AdCar commercials, bro. Like, we know that. We see what's going on. I'm seeing through that. I
got an equity stake in the company. I'm just going to put it out.
I see that. Actually, he just made that up probably, and got that edge. I see that. Yeah, and just before we pass to Earth, real quick, I'll just add that I think Fire's blade of grass analogy is spot on, and I think to me, like all he was saying is just never give up. So, and I think that in those circumstances, when you're responding to those different situations, then you're going to have the whole spectrum of emotions happen. But if you continue over time to develop, then like we were saying, Earth saying, hey, there's an immediate response depending on how like urgent it is. But for the things that are lesser, that Wynn was saying, where they're in that middle where they're not so urgent, look, if you have that resilience and you're never giving up, then okay, when I do get home, instead of sitting on the couch, I will put my shoes on and go for a walk. You don't have to go hit the gym, whatever, right? Just go for a walk, whatever it is, as opposed to sit on the couch and watch TV. Whatever that, that circumstance is that you're trying to get yourself either out of, or you're trying to actually deal with in a more healthy way. That's what I got. Earth, what do you have?
Got that definition. That's what I got.
We forgot about that, dude. All right.
So I'm going to do resilience really quick, and then I'm going to add some things. So resilience, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties or toughness. What it is. Now, there's something that there's an aspect of resilience that, from a scientific perspective, it is something that you can't be taught. Not the whole of resistance. There's an aspect of resistance that you cannot be taught. And there's a term, it's called wired to win. And those who are wired to win need no training in resilience. If they fall down, they get up. If you're a soldier, for example, and you're in battle and you get limbs cut off, the only thing you can think about is moving forward. You're not thinking about what just happened. And you will immediately attempt to get up. You can be injured. And you've seen this in sports. Someone can, just blow their entire knee out. You see some athletes, the first thing they do, they grab and they wince and like, I can't, I'm done. And you see other athletes, they literally try to get up and walk it off. Those athletes are wired to win. That's something you can't turn off. Like that level of resilience cannot be turned off. Now, can you be coached to have a level of resilience? Yes. But to have the level of resilience that is innate, that the level of resilience that you were born with, you can't be taught that one at all. You cannot be taught that one. And so I'll make it personal. Wow. Yeah, two things happened. So I'll name one. One during the snowboarding trip. But anyway. So I was
this is gonna be a good story then.
So I'm an avid mountain biker. I haven't mountain biked in a while, but still call myself an avid mountain biker, right? So I was mountain biking, and I was going across a granite patch. Well, it was more than a patch. This whole entire section is granite. It's very, very technical. And it had rained 2 days before, so the water runoff was still there. But I threw caution to the wind. It wasn't a consideration. So there was a lip before you dip back into the forest. So I saw the lip, and you kind of calculate everything you're going to do. So I did my calculation. This is what I'm going to do. I never calculated the water. And so there was a slight slope. And the moment I hit that water, I was pulling up on the front to go over the lip, and I couldn't pull up. The bike went out from under me. I hit the lip, flipped over the handlebars. The last thing I remember hearing was this loud noise, my head hitting the granite. I was probably doing maybe 20 miles an hour at least, something like that. In those who cycle, that's pretty good speed. And everything went black. I don't know how long I was laying there, but when I opened my eyes, I had one shoe was down in this ravine. My bike was someplace else. I had one shoe on, and I opened my eyes. One knee was bent, the other was straight, and I was looking at the sky. Guess what the first thing I did? I literally got up, got my bike, found my shoe, dusted everything, dusted myself off, got on the bike, and I was gone. Did not think twice about it at all. Didn't think about the fact that, I don't know how long I was maybe unconscious. I have no clue at all. But the moment I opened my eyes, I didn't think about anything else but going. And there are other instances in participating in like extreme sports that I could mention. But that's when I thought about it later. I was like, why did I do that? And once I got to the car, like my neck was hurt. I'd injured myself. But the thought of that, you can say adrenaline had me to go. Now, when people do things, I've seen cyclists crash. The adrenaline is there and they don't move. They're done, period. So I say that to say, if you're wired to win, it's this thing that has you refuse to quit, refuse to stop. It's a level of resilience that will have you injured, and the injury means nothing. It's of no consequence at all, none. And so I'll stick a pin right there. What y'all got?
Is it a function of how you're wired from the biological level, or is it a function of who you are for yourself, like your self-image? Or because I don't know that our ancestors or the Most High just is on the assembly line in heaven saying high resilience, wired to win, low resilience, loser for life. Like, I don't know that's how it happens before we come through the portal, through the womb. Not saying that you're saying that. I'm just saying that some people are wired for high resilience, some people are not innately. That's like you come out of the womb and you got these characteristics. and some people come out of the womb and they don't? Or have at a young age, did you determine, or did you go through some things and you willed yourself out of it, and you just occur for yourself as a winner? You occur for yourself as resilient. You occur for yourself as not a quitter, right? Or you occur for yourself as somebody who is tough and has grit. I'll pause right there because I want to see how, like, what do you think? What do you think about that?
We're at the 5-minute warning, guys. I see Earth. He's rearing back for a whole. I mean, I could see it, man.
This will be really quick.
Yeah,
this will be quick. This is easy.
That means he's gonna take 5 minutes when he says it's gonna be really quick.
Right.
I got it.
Exactly.
Okay.
No, really quick. It's no different than being a leader. You inherit leadership. Nobody can teach you to be a real leader. Someone can teach you to probably lead, but when you put it into action, are people following you? Are people listening to you? I argue if you're not born a leader, no. And being that's something that's inherent. You inherit that. You can look through your bloodlines and you can see leadership. So it's a trait. So being wired that way, if you're not wired that way, then if you don't have, simply back up, if you don't have people in your group, in your society who are wired that way, then what kind of soldiers would you have? You have to have people who, at any cost, they are wired to win. They want to succeed in battle or in whatever they're doing. You can't, it's difficult to lead. And I argue, I don't know this for certain, but I argue that if you're not wired to win, you'll make a very poor leader. Because circumstance will take you out every time. So that's what I have to say about that.
I disagree. I'm on Fire's second point of that, and this would be a great show within itself. I'm in of the ilk that the circumstance, like, so once you came out of the womb, maybe what Earth is saying has some validity, but I think that we decide at some point, like, here's who I'm gonna be, here's who I am in that capacity. So I'm not a quitter, and people develop that at different stages in their lives or whatever. But I think that, like, that's where I would see it if we were going around the horn on that one, Fire.
Yeah.
Well, I think your upbringing reinforces being wired to win. And so, yes, there's some choices you have to make along the way, but I argue you're wired that way. It's the same way you be wired to be a leader, but if you choose not to, then who are you leading? Are you a leader? You just have those traits to be that. But if it's never put into action, then it can never be realized.
So then what you're saying is there are people who are born who are, no matter what it is, they would never be able to lead.
Absolutely, yes.
That would be a good show. That would be a great show. That would be a great show.
Well, I want to leave people empowered. And I want to say it like this. One of the thing that makes the four elements so beautiful is that we're not the same. We don't think the same. We have different expertise, different capacities. And one of the ways that we operate to get out of our imprisonment or our captivity, our limitation and captivity, is that we always bounce ideas and we are in conversation with each other all the time. And we keep it real with one another. So where I'm going with this is that, like Earth says, don't try to go at life alone. Go at life in a community. Get you some smart brothers and some smart sisters around you that can see around the corner and help you distinguish things and improve yourself and grow yourself to another level. Have a great week, everybody.
Hey, real quick, shout out to Ian Joseph over there, man. So listen, ladies, we love you. Ladies, you have like basically driven the elements. Like we would be nowhere without the ladies, right? I mean, the ladies have shown up time and time again every week religiously. And in the comments, we've always had this story going on. A couple of us have had this story. I know I've been one of them. I've been the main perpetuator of the story that dudes aren't listening to us. So I just want to say, you know, shout out to Isern and Joseph for tuning in, guys, and posting in the comments, because, you know, we really weren't aware that guys were listening outside of looking at some analytics or something, you know, but from actually participating in the conversation, we just want to acknowledge you guys for doing that, because it's a conversation that men are not having. And we started the show so that we know the ladies are going to be like, they're showing up front row with popcorn and everything, you know, they got the candles and everything, but the men, we're not having these types of conversations. So we want to, you know, make that something for a conversation for men to be able to have. So that's what I want to leave. And I just want to acknowledge you guys for doing that. Who's up next? Or closing thoughts or whatever? Earth, you want to give some closing thoughts, and then Fire can take us out?
Yeah, I mean, someone mentioned that, you know, we should go deeper. I definitely agree that this is actually a deeper conversation.
And she was talking specifically on that. You're saying that there's, you know, like that born to, you know, whatever, born and there's no. So that would be a great conversation. You doing that one, Fire? You doing that?
I got it.
All right. Yeah. Go ahead with your closing thoughts, then, Earth.
Well, no. So I just want to leave everyone with knowing, not feeling, not guessing, not hoping, knowing that you are not a prisoner of your circumstance unless you say and all your actions are in alignment with you being in prison or being trapped by something. And just to know you always have a choice at every corner, because you're making a choice if you say you are a prisoner to be a prisoner of this thing. And sometimes being a prisoner of something is not a bad thing. It's just being attached to being attached to that thing. That's the thing that I caution people about, being attached to whatever it is. I caution you not to do that one at all. So that's all. I just want to close with that. Fire, Win, what you got?
All right.
Win
actually gave his closing remarks. He set it off with an really shifting or pivoting the conversation to an empowering one. Thank you, Wayne. So what I initially had for us next week, based on how this conversation was going, was how do you develop resilience? I think that we have a more powerful conversation lined up, and that is, can we change our hard wiring? If so, how? Inside of that conversation, you will gain how to develop your resilience. So there's a lot of value to be had and to be gotten next week, and there's a lot to unpack, so don't be late. We thank y'all for rocking with us. All of the elementals, especially the brothers, but more importantly, a special shout out to all the queens, all my sisters who've been rocking with us from day one, from Court to Danny.
Day one to zero.
Quay Lynn, you know what I mean? All Sister Therese, week in and week, like on and on and on. If I missed you, I cannot express our gratitude to you. So we'll see you all next week. Peace.
Next week.
Peace, everybody.